Good morning, Patreon. Excuse me. Hope everybody's well today. We had a question from a brother whose name escapes me because I don't have the card in front of me because I'm in the truck driving, and my stack of cards, I believe, is on my desk in the office. But I remember the gist of the question. So, brother, I'm sorry I forgot your name. Thank you for being here. Man, Patreon, you guys are a lifesaver. Thank you so much for being here. You really inform my sense of purpose, and you really help us do what we do here. And if it wasn't for Patreon, I wouldn't still be doing this. It's just a fact. So, thank you. The question was, things to stock up on now. Paraphrasing, while we still can. Prepper items that we should stock up on now. Okay. And I think there was an element of what are the least talked about things that we should stock up on now? Like, what are the secret items that I should be getting that nobody else is talking about? Well, I'll be completely frank with you. I watch next to zero preparedness channels, so I don't really know what everybody else is talking about. I watch Pastor Joe Fox Viking Preparedness for all the obvious reasons. Pastor Joe Fox of Viking Preparedness, need I say anything more? I watch Kyle from Survival Prepping for Normal People because I like the philosophical brain dances that he engages in. He makes me think. And I do watch JJ, Survival Reality Prepping, occasionally. And I'll watch Squid's videos, but he doesn't talk about prepping. He talks about what he does, canning, gardening, so forth and so on. I don't watch any of the big channels. I mean, like, I love Nut and Fancy gear reviews, or I should say I loved. I'm sure I would still like them, but I haven't had time in the last 18 months to watch one. I think Such is a good guy. I don't watch his stuff. I mean, y'all know about me and Canadian Prepper. So I don't watch preparedness channels. I don't know what other people are talking about, so I don't really know what other people's short list of items that you should stock but aren't are. So if there's redundancy here, I apologize. I don't know. These are also the first words that I've spoken today. So if the voice sounds a little battered, I apologize. Here's the thing, man. I'm going to give you a list off the top of my head of things that are useful that a lot of people overlook, and in no particular order, with no particular weighting system, no scale of usability here, but just things that come to mind. Lighters. David Dubine from Adapt 2030 is pretty regularly, anytime he mentions preparedness or prepping, he brings up Bosnia, and he says, hey, you should be buying lighters, candles, butane, water filters, and ammunition, because these are the things that were most traded in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Sorry, I hit a bump at the perfect time. Bosnia-Herzegovina in the 90s. Yeah, absolutely. Candles, you can get these, monstrous candles that look like mortar rounds. You can get the little 12-hour emergency candles. You can get tea lights. We have, I don't want to exaggerate, 1,000 tea lights, at least, probably more, I don't know. And then we have many other candles, maybe 100 of those 12-hour emergency candles, and then several dozen of the big ones, the ones that are like, you know, as big around as your arm and, 8 inches, 12 inches long. Because, right, we also have lots of hurricane lamps. Go on with your bad self, Pontiac vibe. That's a good idea. You should accelerate to 80 miles an hour coming into a reduced speed zone. I'm sure the sheriff that sits around this corner is going to love you. No brains. Sheeple. We're just sheeple. Meh. I was thinking about this morning. Sheep have a very limited vocabulary. And I mean that literally and figuratively. Sheep only know so many words. Meh. Gosh, brain fart. So we have hurricane lamps and lanterns. Many of. And lots of lamp oil. Lots. And that's one of the things we have, when I say we, my wife and I, we have a list, running mental list of things that when we go to the store, we buy. And on that list is candles and lamp oil. And occasionally, my wife will buy more candles, or I'm sorry, more lamps or lanterns as well, just to have them. We probably have 2 dozen between the two. So lighting, for sure. Lighters, yeah, for sure. Now, we have ferro rods, we have magnesium bars. I can start friction fires. Frankly, I'm not great at it, but I can do it. I've done it. I do not like doing it. It's okay. It's not the... That guy right there's got big truck, little pecker syndrome. Sorry, I had to. I got nothing against people who want to make friction fires. It's a great skill to possess. I don't want to do it. I can do it. I don't want to do it. If I have options, I want to flick my bic, man. I want to bust out my Zippo. There's matches. Books of matches are cheap. Boxes of matches. You get that box of matches that big. It's like 400 stick matches in it for $1. $1. Yeah. I'm cool with that. I'm very, very cool with that. And so, ways to start fires, lighters, matches, Zippos, magnesium bars, ferrocerium rods, flints and steels, all that, all good stuff, man. And I really think you should have one in your pocket at all times. Not necessarily a flint and steel, but a way to start a fire in your pocket at all times. And then you should have dozens, if not hundreds more elsewhere as part of your preps. That's another thing. Every time you go to the store, our standard SOP is if you're at the store, grab something, whatever it is. Well, we just need a gallon of milk. Well, every store on the planet, or at least in the United States, at the checkout counter has Bic lighters right there by the checkout counter. They're $1. I think they're $1.24 now. Whatever. Grab it. There you go. Right? Every time. So, lighters, water filters for sure. Sawyer minis are like $20. The Sawyer squeeze is like $25. You can get your Life straws. As I understand it, the next generation Life straw doesn't suck. I haven't tested it. I don't know. Y'all know my standpoint on the first generation Life straw. Not interested. No thank you. And I know I always get comments on this. People are like, what do you mean? What's your problem with Life straw? YouTube, search bar, Bare Independent Life straw. And there's a video on it there. So, yeah. What else should people be stocking that they're not stocking? How about food? I was just listening to a report this morning about corn futures, And suffice it to say, we are getting from snafu to tarfu, soon to be foobar. Not good. Not good. Supply is drying up. 38% of all the grain in the United States that was stored in grain bins along the Mississippi River washed away in these most recent floods. So we went down almost 40% like that. Add into the fact that it has not stopped raining in major areas of the country for crop production, including mine. So, food, and that seems like an obvious one, but most people that I run into who call themselves preppers have maybe 3 months of food and then they stop there. No good. And I'm saying this in love. I'm not chastising you, but I'm telling you, literally, your life could depend on it. Stack it to the rafters, man. Stack it to the rafters. What else should people be stocking that they're not stocking? I mean, it's all the things, right? Medical supplies. And I mean, have a SWAT tee, bro. I'm not going to do a pocket dump on camera while driving. There's a little tiny Nissan B2000 pickup truck in front of me that needs to not be there, though, or I need to be around him. Because we've gone from 72 in a 70 to 53 in a 70. Go Nissan Rangers. And it's actually quite distracting. Whatever. We should drink some coffee, that'll fix it. Fuel. I mean, it's maybe to me, it's the obvious things. It's the things that you're going to need. I mean, if you have a Coleman lantern, do you have spare propane bottles? Do you have spare mantles for it? Right? Like, what are the logistical requirements of all the equipment that you have? Do you have backups for it? Well, I've got a chainsaw. Cool. Do you have spark plugs? Do you have chain files? Do you have spare chains? Do you have, a gas can? Do you have 2-cycle oil? Do you have more gas to put in your gas can to mix? Do you have, air filters, spare air filters? Blah, 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 right? So it's not just the chainsaw, it's all the things around it. And I mean, literally in this case, if you have a chainsaw as part of your preparedness protocol, you should also have all those other things, right? Like, do you have a shovel? Yes, good. A shovel is, depending on where you buy it, between $10 and $30. Get 5 more. Why? Trust me, get 5 more. A, they break, and if they break and you can't get another one, then what are you gonna do? B, you can dig a hole a lot faster with 6 guys digging the hole than you can with 1 guy digging the hole. So having extra shovels is nice. Unless you're the government, then you got 1 guy digging the hole and 5 guys standing there leaning on shovels watching the 1 guy dig the hole. Because that's how we do it in the government. After a 2-hour safety brief about how to properly use a shovel. And then everybody signed the liability waiver, and then let's do some stretch and bend to make sure that we don't pull any muscles out here. And we'll start about 8 a.m. and then we'll be on site at 8, and then after the safety brief and the liability talk and all of that, and our instruction on proper hole shoveling, it'll be about 10. First coffee breaks from 10 to 10:30, then we'll come back from coffee break at 10:30, and we'll dig a hole a little bit until about 11. It's 11. 11's almost noon, and noon is lunch, so we should probably start packing up so we can get ready for lunch. So forth and so on. I'll tell you what, man, Oklahoma legalized medical marijuana, and in every one of these little towns now there's a dispensary. Every one of these little towns. I'm just gonna leave that right there. What other items? I've done videos on this before here on Patreon and on YouTube. But what other items should you have, man? I really think it's about looking at your systems and looking at them with a critical eye and realizing, where does the ability exist for this to break down? And then acquire the materials and knowledge to maintain that system. Again, like the chainsaw analogy. Also, just like your water filters. For example, like, oh, we've got a Berkey. Cool. Guess what happens when the toddler knocks the Berkey off of the Berkey stand? And Berkey is not, well, it could be that I know of, it's not a country over there near Trashcanistan. But inside that Berkey are 4 black carbon filters that are not cheap. And guess what? It's entirely possible for 2 of the 4 of them to break and become absolutely unusable. And you know what I realized? We didn't have a single thing in the house to plug the 2 holes that should have had filters in them so that the other 2 filters would continue to work. I needed corks, like trapezoidal corks shaped like that, like a cone with the end cut off. Didn't have them. Okay, now I know, right? So we ordered more Berkey filters, and we ordered plugs to plug those holes with, that if we ever needed to, we could. So it's just little things like that, man. Like, what should I really have? You know, antibiotics, medical, seed, good seed, gardening tools. I don't think there's a secret sauce here. I think when you go and do these things, you learn from the doing of, and then it becomes apparent what you need and what you don't need. And I guess part of my job is to inform you as to the insights that I've come to in the doing of this. And my answer is really, it's basic. You need the basic things, like the 5 C's of survival: cutting tool, cordage, container, cover, combustion. I don't think there's any hidden like mojo or magic. I think it's about nailing the basics and building out your redundancy. And like, you know, I get the question all the time. People are like, I have a special situation. I have somebody with special needs. What should I do? I don't know. I don't live in your house. I don't know if you use, you know, we'll just say, if you use 2 5x9 combine pads and a half a roll of tape every day, treating somebody's wound because they need wound care, ipso facto, we need more 5x9s and tape, right? And probably gloves and probably disinfectant. Okay, you know that, not me. You know, if you have somebody in your house who only eats a certain type of food, you need more of it and a way to reproduce more of it. So it's about employing awareness in the moment and thinking, okay, when the system goes away, how do I continue to provide this, whatever this thing is, for me and my family by my own blood, sweat, and tears? If I can't go to the store anymore and buy, you know, peanut butter and jelly, where am I going to get peanut butter and jelly? Probably not going to get peanut butter. Okay? When the peanut butter is gone, the peanut butter is gone. You could plant peanuts, you could make peanut butter, that'd be cool. It's going to be a hell of a lot of work compared to spending a couple of bucks on a jar of peanut butter. But it can be done. Jelly, pectin, sugar, fruit. Grow fruit, stock pectin, stock sugar. Bam, jelly. Right, so I think it's about employing awareness in the moment and thinking about, being cognizant about, if I had to do this myself, how would I do it? Now I've got a semi in front of me. That little Nissan turned off in that last town we were in. This guy has spent more time outside of the lines than in them. he's going to have to get past. So I'm sorry about this video. If it sucks, I won't post it. But I think it's really about redundancy of basic things, and it is about getting into the weeds about complex things. And I don't think there's a secret sauce. I don't. And I think that we do ourselves a disservice to make it more complicated than it needs to be. Just do the things. Shalom.